Hey guys, it's Chris and welcome back to another Game of Thrones Foreshadowing series video. And today we're going to pick up right where we left off and wrap up Season 2, Episode 2, The Nightlands. So in our first scene, we pick up right where we left off and we see Littlefinger talking to Roz.
This one wasn't making me any money. I hate bad investments. Really, I do.
So Roz is upset about the baby being killed when Joffrey had all the bastards killed in King's Landing. And of course Roz is causing problems for Littlefinger because she's not making enough profit for him. She's not being very profitable. So later on, of course, we do see the result of her not being profitable enough when we see this.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. The fall breaks them.
And in our next scene, we see Tyrion and Janos Slynt having a little conversation over supper.
Wolf, you should have stopped at Imp. And yes, you will stand here and take it from me, unless you'd like to take it from my friend here. I intend to serve as Hand of the King until my father returns from the war. And seeing as you betrayed the last Hand of the King, well, I just wouldn't feel safe with you lurking about. I hope you enjoy the wall. I found it surprisingly beautiful. In a brutal, horribly uncomfortable sort of way.
I have friends at court! Powerful friends! The king himself made me a lord!
So we see Tyrion using his power as Hand of the King to strip Janos Slynt of all his lands and titles and his position as Lord Commander of the City Watch. Now, of course, he was given all this by Joffrey himself, so he gets rid of Janos Slynt, and of course he ends up at the Wall. And of course later on, in a parallel moment, we would see Janos Slynt's true colors of him being a coward at the Wall when we see this.
If you have any last words, my lord, now's the time.
I'm afraid. I've always been afraid.
And in our next scene, we see Arya and Gendry continue to have a conversation about what the hell the Gold Cloaks wanted with Gendry.
What did the Gold Cloaks want with you?
No idea.
You're a liar.
Yeah, you shouldn't insult people that are bigger than you.
No one get to insult anyone. What did they ask about?
My mum.
Who's your mum?
She's just my mum. Works in a tavern, died when I was little.
And who's your father?
He could have been one of those gold-hatted bastards for all I know.
So we see Gendry and Arya having this conversation. He's not really sure what the hell's going on and why they would want him. He does know that the last two Hands of the King have came to visit him at Tabo Mott's place and question him about his mother, but he really still doesn't understand the full gravity of the situation until later on when Melisandre confirms it for him when we see this.
There. Your father's house.
I'm just a bastard.
The bastard of Robert of the House Baratheon. First of his name, King of the Andals and the First Man. Why do you think the Gold Cloaks wanted you?
So Gendry finds out he is the son of Robert Baratheon, and I do believe this will play a bigger role in Season 8 in the finale when Gendry is raised back up as an actual Baratheon to bring them back into the fold, and maybe Gendry ends up being Lord of Storm's End. And in our next scene, and very similar to Arya, we see Theon continue his little identity crisis as well when he comes back into contact with his father Balon.
Father. 9 years, is it? Your blood and your hair.
We shall see. Can you longer than I did?
Lord Stark is gone.
And how do you feel about that?
What's done is done.
So essentially later on we know that he would choose Balon as his father, although Ned essentially raised him as his own son as a ward in Winterfell. But of course later on he knows he made a mistake, and he admits this to Ramsay when we see this.
You make my father proud.
Maybe it's not too late.
It is. My real father lost his head at King's Landing. I made a choice. And I chose wrong.
And next we have 3 scenes that really lead up to the same event, so I'm going to show all 3 scenes first, and then show the little payoff scene. So in our first scene we have Davos and Salladhor Sam, as Davos tries to recruit him to Stannis' cause, and they talk about the future of King's Landing.
Cersei, I want you. I'll sail with your fleet, all 30 of my ships. And if we don't drown at the bottom of Blackwater Bay, I will.
And also during the same sequence we see Mathos trying to convince Davos, his father, to become a follower of the Lord of Light.
I wasn't praying, no. But I was. Every night that you were at sea, I lit a candle and I prayed for you.
And then finally, as they go to see Stannis up in Dragonstone, we do see Melisandre whisper something in Mathos' ear.
The Lord of Light shines through you, young warrior.
What did you say to him?
I told him death by fire is the purest death.
Why?
Now, all 3 of these scenes actually foreshadow what's going to happen when Stannis tries to take King's Landing during the Battle of Blackwater Bay when we see this.
Mathos! Get down!
So during the Davos Salladhor Sam conversation, we do hear him specifically say, if we don't drown. And also during the Mathos Davos conversation, as well as the scene where Mathos is whispered in the ear by Melisandre, death by fire is the purest form. That all leads up to Blackwater Bay, where everybody essentially drowns, and Davos almost drowns himself, but he does lose his son Mathos by the purest form of death being fire. So Melisandre saw this event before it was going to happen and basically told us that. And next we have a conversation between Melisandre and Stannis as they plan some things on the table.
I will give you a son, my king.
Son.
So Melisandre specifically tells Stannis that she would give him a son. Now, of course, this ended up resulting in the actual shadow baby that killed Renly. So that was certainly a shocker that we saw a shadow demon kill Renly in his own damn camp, which set up a lot of other things as well. But what's important here, I believe, is right after this scene, it cuts directly to Jon, who is essentially the son, as in the son of Rhaegar, the son of Ice and Fire, whatever you want to call it. So that brings up the importance of Jon again in our story, and of course later on in Season 5, we would see this.
Power to make life, power to make light, and power to cast shadows. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
And finally, during our last scene of this episode, we see Craster take out his son to God knows where in the woods. So we see Craster take his son out to God knows where in the woods, and Jon follows him down there and finds out something's very, very wrong, and he actually sees something take that child. He doesn't know what it is, and of course Craster snuck up on him and knocked his ass out cold. But this was a little reminder of what's really going on in the story, because we hadn't seen anything from the White Walkers or the others since episode 1 of season 1. So this is one of those subtle reminders that it's not really about this Game of Thrones we've been talking about. There's really something else going on that we told you about in the very first opening scene of the entire show, and the prologue of the book for that matter. So that was a subtle reminder, and of course later on we get a definitive answer about what happened to that child when we see this. Alright guys, so that'll do it for episode 2, The Nightland. So this entire episode was really setting up some major events. We were setting up Blackwater Bay in a lot of ways. We were continuing Arya and Theon's storyline about their identity crisis and it also included a lot of subtle things about Dany's rise to power, because this was her lowest point in the entire show just about, when she was out in the Red Waste, almost ready to give up and die. Although she had just hatched 3 new dragons, she didn't have a pot to piss in. So anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially to you guys on Patreon, and a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers, Griffin, Lala Gig, Kissa Powell, Marylin Bentley, JoAnna, Doc Holliday, Goska, HoonJive, Horton, Erin Habig, John Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, DTizSmith, MJW, Carole Brown, D Brown, and Mel Hoffman. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. And to everyone on Patreon, I really appreciate it. You guys literally keep this channel going during the off season, this long night when there's not a lot of Game of Thrones stuff going on and not a lot of people searching for Game of Thrones content. So anyway guys, if you dig what I do here, please give me a like and a share. Also be sure to subscribe to get everything, and be sure to click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.